Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the special 4th of July weekend edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. Boy, howdy, have we got a firecracker of a show that may even blow your fingers or your pecker off. America celebrates its first ever Independence Day, where if the British were offered a chance to take us back, they'd probably say, nah, man, it's okay, we're good. Anyway, to join me in this celebratory holiday weekend edition, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the former proprietor of the French Toast Chateau, but now just a Yankee Doodle dandy, a real-life nephew of his Aunt Gertrude, who eats no meat on his pie. Your friend and mine, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. Aloha, America. And happy birthday. To everyone out there, July 4th, a wonderful day in this country's history. What does it mean that he stuck a feather in his cap and he called it macaroni? What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I never understood. Well, what the fuck if he was a Yankee Doodle dandy just doodling around the countryside? Maybe he was goddamn, I don't know, Paul Lynde before his fucking times.
I used to have a friend who would always say that he wanted to be a foppish dandy. Whatever the hell that means.
The foppish dandy was the character in all the English drawing room comedies that were a rage around the turn of the previous century. But nevertheless, well, are you a foppish dandy? You do eat no meat on your pie.
Me, no. I am not a foppish dandy.
Boy, James Cagney was a doodle dandy, but he wasn't a foppish dandy either. He was great in that movie. He could do all the dance routines and everything. He was quite the terpsichorean, was James Cagney. Google that one, kids. You know what? And we're just making mockery from the start here of the whole. It's almost like a modern wrestling program where we're just winking at the audience and making fun of our own shit right here at the top of the program to make sure nobody takes us seriously. But I got another email on why that we do these shows sometimes on days like this, why I put myself through some of the things that I put myself through over the last 4 or 5 hours to watch things to discuss. But I got an email, and this was a couple weeks ago, so I apologize to David. But David wrote, "Hello there, Jim. I'd just like to thank you and Brian on behalf of my dad, who sadly passed away last week from cancer. He and I loved your show, and in his last days, all he wanted to do was listen to you and Brian. And no matter how much we tried other ways to cheer him up, the only thing that made him laugh was your show." Possibly he was a critic, as a matter of fact. No, he spent most days telling the nurses how Brian hates cheese on pizzas and how you and Shitstain will never send a Christmas card to one another. The nurses looked at me many a time to ask, who are these people? I will probably never get to thank you both in person, so this is the closest I will get to just say thank you for making my dad's last days as good as it could have got for him. And please thank Brian for me too. God bless. Dave from Manchester, UK.
Oh, sorry for your loss, Dave.
Yeah, but you got I can see these nurses over at a hospital in Manchester going, who the fuck is this guy talking about? They don't eat cheese on the pizza, or the fucking one guy's name is Shitstain. What? It probably thought it was the heavy drugs they were giving the poor gentleman to make his stay more comfortable is why he was listening. And that might actually make this show better, come to think of it, sometimes. I know I wish I'd have had some when we did the drive-thru this past week, but that's a different story. But anyway, this is why we do some of these shows, and I had on the drive-thru, possibly the highlight of that program this past week was me talking about my interaction with the non-mask wearing dipshit at the post office. And as a matter of fact, I went in there after we recorded the drive-thru. I went back in, obviously, like I do every day practically, but I went back in, and Lib and Mike, the other guy, was on the window. He's like, Mike missed it. He's like, I can't believe I missed this.
Did anyone there warn you or say anything? Because a couple of people wrote in, it must have been on Twitter, and they said, tell Jim not to fight in the post office. It's a federal crime. Did anyone say anything to you there at the post office?
Well, no. When the manager came over and ushered that other guy off to wherever the fuck it was they went, because I never saw him again. Everybody else was quite tickled by just the the break in the monotony of their morning routine. But I don't know. Is it a federal crime if you're defending yourself from someone's potentially deadly germs? Plague? I think not. Besides, I'm their best customer. I think they'd have found somebody that said the other guy threw the first punch. Anyway, having said that.
What are you, a tough guy or something?
Yeah, what are you, a tough guy? You look like fucking Jeffrey Epstein on a golf course in a fucking polo shirt. Yeah. Anyway, but we did get an email referencing the general crux of the matter, which is people not wearing masks and these guys, wrestlers, talking about not wearing masks and blah, blah, blah. This letter is from Mr. Garrison's penis, which may or may not be an assumed name. But dear Jim and Brian, there are individuals who are blessed to have attained international status performing in a wrestling ring. Many of them use their clout and name recognition to do great things, urging people to register to vote, mental health awareness, volunteerism, fundraising to quality charities. As I've donated to RAIN because of Mick Foley. Jim, you have told your faithful followers to wise up and take care of their personal health. You've expressed numerous times your post office outfit, which includes not just a mask, but gloves as well. Other individuals have used their status during the pandemic to downplay the urgent use of protective gear, specifically masks, when interacting with the public. These unnamed assholes, I have a feeling we'll probably name a couple here in a second. These unnamed assholes are saying it's their choice to make this decision. One of them has gone on record to say he understands his body better than anyone else and he is willing to take the risk. Unfortunately, it don't work like that. The reality is these inept assholes will disagree with science and endless medical professionals who are advising citizens you need to wear a mask. These reprobates argue with municipalities requiring individuals to wear a mask before they enter a store. They refuse because I guess they don't like being told what to do. I want to thank them for making it very clear where they stand during the pandemic, for clearly expressing their personal beliefs, for using freedom of speech within media such as Twitter. We know what's going on in their head, and it is nothing. To those pieces of shit, those soon-to-be rotting bags of flesh, I say fuck you. Fuck you for not caring about your fellow humans standing next to you. Fuck you for being selfish and only thinking of your personal preference. Fuck you for debating science. And fuck you for making fans at one time even care about you performing in the ring. We know where you might perform, and we will not pay to see you. We will tell promoters not to book you. We will not buy your merchandise. We will not put money for any type of personalized message coming from you. We will not support you in any way possible. This is not a political thing. While many Republicans do not believe in supporting the use of masks, this has nothing to do with politics. Well, some of it does, but nevertheless. This again has everything to do with you putting your own personal desires and inconveniences ahead of the general populace. That's obvious. Your names will not be mentioned in this letter, as I do not wish to give you a lick of press. I want you to go away. I want you to vanish. I want you to no longer become a bookable option for those promotions who might have done so before the pandemic. You can stay away from everybody because you have nowhere to go. Hopefully you will not get sick. Hopefully you will not become ill and require medical treatment by staff who are working 12-plus hour days to save patients who have become compromised because of people like you. A very vehement letter. And so now let's start mentioning some names. Austin Aries, the Napoleon of pro wrestling, the little man with the big man's complex. He actually said he doesn't wear a mask, and you don't have the right to tell him to wear a mask. And I'm not kidding about this, Brian. Tell me if I'm misrepresenting this. He said, because I don't go in the grocery store and pull out all the horrible fattening food and sugar and unhealthy things out of your cart that you use to compromise your immune system. So why should I have to wear a mask? Because you don't like a good immune system. It means you're invulnerable. Bullets, the virus bounces off like bullets off Superman's chest. Here's the difference, you fucking clown. Since you know, I love it when everybody that I've ever said shit about turns out I was right about. Just idiots. I'm not taking my Twinkies and fucking fried pickles and shoving them down your fucking pie hole, Aries. I'm not taking that shit out of my cart and shoving it down your mouth. I'm shoving it down mine. What you're shoving down my mouth is your fucking germs when you're fucking slabbering and not wearing a mask and covering your fucking mouth up. And supposed educated people that can't fucking get this. I was wearing a mask at first because I thought, yeah, shit, I'll wear a mask. Won't get any of that on me. Well, then I found out it's not for me, it's for you. And if I'm wearing a goddamn fucking mask, actually, it's still mentally for me, too. I want as much fucking, I'm not showing any skin. I want as much goddamn separation between me and everybody else as possible. But if I'm wearing a mask to show you that I'm being considerate and you're standing out there barefaced, slobbering all over everything, fuck you. You've automatically got heat with me. And now before all we had to tell assholes from decent people was the Trump hats. That's the only way we had to tell. Now there's a visual reminder. If you see people out in public around you or other people and are not wearing a mask, that means they're a fucking asshole. And it's just that, and it needs to be the new hate crime. And people are going to start taking fucking sticks and goddamn fucking socks full of coins and beating these non-mask wearing fucks over the head with them is my prediction next. Because just basically showing no goddamn common courtesy or sense or compassion or anything, but you just act like a fucking Republican. Even if you're not one, you're acting like one if you're not wearing a fucking mask. Ignorant, stupid, and an asshole. And fucking, so anyway, Aries, just remember, I'm not shoving my goddamn Twinkies down your fucking neck, so don't shove your turnips down my fucking, go eat some fucking turnips. I still think the whole problem with him is if somebody just did hold him down and shove a nice juicy bacon cheeseburger in his mouth, a smile would come over his face and instantly it'd be like the Grinch on Christmas morning, where suddenly he'd become a human being that people would actually want to fucking associate with again.
Well, I, for one, am shocked that Austin Aries has an ignorant point of view on something. Did you see the, I'm not too familiar with this guy. There's a wrestler, Ethan Page. Did you see his Twitter exchange about Austin Aries?
I'm not familiar with Ethan Page.
Apparently he's a tag team champion in Impact right now.
That might be why I'm not familiar with him.
But after Aries put out his tweet, about going over to your grocery cart and snatching all the bad shit away from you instead of wearing a mask, Ethan Page wrote, I don't know, man. We're all forced to take responsibility for all the stupid, ignorant shit you've done in wrestling. Maybe just wear a mask and shut your annoying bitch ass up. And at that point...
That comes from the people who know him well, though.
And at that point, some fan responded, Austin Aries versus Ethan Page. And then Ethan Page responded, I'll never work with him. This tiny moron wrestled 2 20-minute main event pay-per-view matches with men twice his size and just nipped up afterwards. He has no respect for wrestling. I'd happily open hand slap his little ass backstage, though. Remind him he never actually beat anyone for real. So apparently some real-life heat.
Well, anyway, I don't think anybody will work with fucking Aries after this because he's not going to wear a mask. He's going to slobber all over everybody. And plus it would improve his look. He's aged also. It's terrible when these people that have no good cattle byproduct in their fucking diet and don't have any grease in their veins that makes their blood flow more smoothly, they just age terribly.
Killer Kowalski, when he got off the meat,
wow.
Like his whole body changed, his whole
hair fell out.
Don Leo Jonathan once told me there was a time where he's like, Walter wanted to live on air. No food, no water, just air. And that didn't work out so well.
From what, 1948 to 1955-ish or so, I don't know that Kowalski probably looked better than Luger, all things considered, in a pre-steroid era, and he was so fucking tall, and then didn't he take a couple of years off from the business when he actually went on the vegetarian thing and lost all that weight, and then he came back and people thought he'd been ill? I heard that at one point.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But at any rate, he still had the cardio, but boy, that he was just a Greek god when he was younger, and then he kind of had that vegetarian thing, like Jimmy Valiant when he caught hepatitis. Physically he didn't have it anymore.
When did Jimmy Valiant catch hepatitis?
When Jerry Valiant came along.
Because I'm going to say the big question everyone always had was after Jimmy Valiant left the NWA in 88, the next time you see him in either late 89 or early 90, he was like 150 pounds.
No, it was 10 years beforehand. And Jimmy actually, he massively changed his diet, eliminated a lot of, all of the bad substances that he had ingested over his lifetime, and changed his diet also and lost all that weight. But no, the reason that Guy Mitchell became Gentleman Jerry Valiant's because Jimmy Valiant caught hepatitis. And what was it, 1979?
Yeah.
8? Jimmy was here in Tennessee, and he was one of the fucking hottest baby faces. But they wanted him and Johnny back for another run in the WWF as tag team champions, the Valiant Brothers, Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny. And so he was about ready to finish up here and do that run. And I remember Christine Jarrett said to him one night, "Handsome?" She said, "Let me look." She said, "Your eyes are yellow." And the whites of his eyes were starting to turn, and he had been feeling kind of, bleh. And all of a sudden, everybody started looking, and his eyes were yellow. And he went to the doctor and had fucking hepatitis. And that's why he not only was finished here for a while, but could not join that spot right away. And that's when Gentleman Jerry came, because they already had figured the Valiant Brothers in, so they made a new Valiant Brother. And then when Jimmy was better, then that's when it became a 3-man team for a while. But Guy Mitchell got a fucking new family and a second, third, fourth career. How many people was he? He was Guy the Stomper Mitchell for the Sheik in Detroit. He was the Masked Strangler for Bruiser in Indianapolis. He was a fucking brother to Bobby Heenan at one time. But his last big run was he got to be a Valiant Brother because Jimmy Valiant got hepatitis.
There had to be someone better they could have gotten to be a Valiant.
He didn't fit the suit to me.
No.
And it was not that he was a bad person, but he was nothing like a Valiant. And to hear him try to go, "Who daddy?" Who daddy?
So just for the record, Jimmy Valiant changed his diet, lost weight, seems like a very happy and chipper guy. Killer Kowalski cut out all the meat, may have gone through a different look with his physique, but by all accounts, a very nice guy. Austin Aries, a tiny grump. No meat.
No meat. Well, speaking of where's the beef, a lot of people are saying, "Where's my package?" And you'll be happy to know that your package from Jim Cornette's package is on its way to you, probably. If you ordered anything but an action figure, the action figure variant that broke my website, if you ordered anything else, it's on its way. Everything has been sent out besides the action figures for the entire month of June, except for a couple of those that we're still waiting on an address confirmation. And there's emails answering or asking me about orders and et cetera that I've not answered, that I'm going to be answering all those this weekend, folks. So if you've emailed me and haven't heard back, this weekend could be your lucky day. This weekend could be your lucky day. That doesn't make any sense. One of these days this weekend could be your lucky day. And the action figures start going out on Monday, July the 6th, and will continue for the following week on an almost daily basis till we get everything shipped out. Internationals, I'm hearing, regardless of when I send them out or not, even if I am late, they're later. Customs is backed up because of the pandemic. If I mail it 2 weeks after I got the order, still wait 4 to 6 weeks because they're really slowed down internationally. But things are looking good. I've restocked some things. We're going to streamline some items on the website store, which is still closed, but should be opening around mid-July-ish, around the 15-ish, depending on whether I get a day or two off after all this is over with or not. But as my mother used to say, old Mama Cornette, it won't be as long as it's been, folks. And we thank you for your support and your patience. And then when we get back, opened back up, we'll see We'll see how long we can fight that before we have to close down again. And the new website with the enlarged server is still being discussed and talked about and planned, and motions are being made. And that's something that's going to happen this fall, hopefully before the big holiday rush. So it's good to have too much business, I guess.
Yeah, nice problem to have.
Because there's somebody, a heartbreaking bankruptcy was brought to my attention. Some people don't have, in this pandemic world, don't have enough business. They've gone bankrupt. The latest one that's going to affect a lot of future wrestling talent, Cirque du Soleil, has gone bankrupt, Brian.
Oh, I have not heard that.
Cirque du Soleil has gone bankrupt. They ain't going to make it. They can't get through this pandemic. That was the big news. And of course, you know, as wrestling has gone through all these stages and phases, where first it was all the great amateur wrestlers that got into professional wrestling, and then it was the pro football players that had second careers in professional wrestling, and then it was the MMA guys, the mixed martial artists that transferred over to professional wrestling. Well, you know, this is where all the future stars are coming from now. And where is our next feeder system going to come for the Cirque du Bullshit if we don't have the Cirque du Soleil? I'm worried about the future talent in the industry, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they officially done? I haven't seen anything about this.
Well, I saw Cirque du Soleil declared bankruptcy, so I don't know if they're out of all their apartments and they've goddamn closed down and given back the key yet, left it in broom clean condition. But if they're bankrupt, I don't imagine their future is looking very bright.
That was a regular thing in Vegas, right? I mean, they had a touring company, and then they had...
Yes. A big Vegas. Who wants to go to Las Vegas? A bunch of senior citizens breathing germs all over each other, packed in. Here's another thing. These Broadway. I have seen a number of Broadway plays. I've been here to the Louisville Palace, see George Carlin and some wonderful acts. Louisville Palace is one of these converted silent movie theaters where they made them like palaces, and the beautiful architecture and the wonderful skylines and the big stages and everything. But the seats, and you can testify to this because you're a grown adult man of about 6 feet tall. Even when I was 250 pounds, I can understand, yeah, okay, you know, I had to grease my ass up to get in some of these theater seats or these, you know, arena seats or whatever. But now I'm 6 feet tall and I'm 200 pounds. I'm not a giant. Most grown adult male human beings in the United States are somewhere within 20 or 30 pounds and a couple inches of me if I'm not average by this point. And my ass goes to sleep every time I cram myself into one of these things. I hate the live shows because it's so close, and I've got the claustrophobia anyway, but my knees and my hip hurts, and my back will start hurting, and my feet will go to sleep because I can't put weight on my bad knees through a 2-hour performance. If you have to get up and go piss, you got to fucking stick your ass in people's face. It's so tight as you wind your way down if you're in the middle of the aisle, which is, and I'm always worried about having to take a piss, which is why I don't want to drink a drink, which is why my mouth is always dry. And I'm kind of, oh my God, can't intermission come so I can get a drink? But then you have to go out when everybody else is trying to get a drink. And you panic to get back to your fucking seat without putting your ass in anybody's face with your fucking drink that you got at intermission. It took 20 minutes to get a goddamn Sprite in a cup. Then the second half of the show comes, and all your shit's going to sleep again, and all your shit's hurting, and I'm sweating under my arms because I'm trying to lean over on my wife because it's better than leaning over on the middle-aged stockbroker from Cleveland who I've just met because we've been thrown into this fucking position together. And by the time the thing's almost over with, I've paid all this money. I'm waiting for it to go home because now I've got to piss because I had the drink that I got thirsty for because I didn't want to take a drink because I didn't want to have to piss. And now it's like, my God, is this thing going to fucking end before I have to piss myself? I'm going to have to leave and miss the finish. And then you're looking at your watch going, please be over, please be over. And finally, when it's over, you're happy it's over instead of excited about the experience because you got to go piss. Now, who wants to have all that stuff multiplied by the fact that everybody in the room around you could have a deadly illness.
It's very similar to the way I felt the last time I went to Carnegie Hall. Tiny little seats, awful.
Yeah, it's too tight. It's too close. It's too tight. There's some things, and they've been fewer and farther between as I've gotten older, that I want to see so bad I'd go see them in person. But goddamn, it's so uncomfortable to begin with. And now, fuck that. My big screen TV is going to get a lot of fucking use. If I'm going to go to every concert in the world, right from the front row. And no germs. No germs. But, Brian, you know what? If you want to shut all the idiots in the world out, you know how to do it. Raycon earbuds, boy.
That's right.
That's right. Raycon earbuds, because we've talked about these products before. Everything they bring out is state of the art. Everybody knows that I don't have a fucking Bluetooth. I have a gold tooth. I don't have a Bluetooth. And I don't do anything related to technology, so I depend on my advisors around me. And both my wife and podcast co-host, as a matter of fact, you're hearing from him as we speak, right, Brian?
Aloha.
Aloha. They say these things are fantastic. So even with my rotten hearing, I'll agree with them. But anyway, the wireless earbuds from Raycon, the newest model, the everyday E25 earbuds, the best ones yet, 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass. It'll knock your head off. And a compact design that gives you a nice noise isolating fit. Because especially if you've been home for the past few months, if you're working from home, or if you're spending more time with your family or your roommate, or even close to your neighbors, whatever, you need something to block out sound. And before you go dropping hundreds of dollars on a pair of these things, check out the ones from Raycon, because they're cheaper. I shouldn't even use that term. They're less expensive than some of these highfalutin, hooty-tootin' earbuds out there, and they sound even better. You can wear them for conference calls. You can wear them for podcasts. That way, all of our naughty words won't be broadcast around you in case you're in a sensitive environment. Anyway, what you can do to not only cut out the noise around you and listen to what you want to listen to and save money is go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE and get 15% off. buyraycon.com/JCE, 15% off the Raycon wireless earbuds, and that's a pretty good deal. As a matter of fact, sometimes I have a feeling you've got your Raycons in and you're not listening to me.
Are you talking? What?
What? Huh?
I'm listening to my Raycons. This is great.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Anyway.
Listening to some Jimmy Smith.
What?
Jimmy Smith.
Jimmy Smith.
You never listened to Jimmy Smith?
Who the fuck is Jimmy Smith?
He was a jazz organist.
Well, I don't know anything about these people's organs.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I've got another email I'm going to read, and we're going to talk about the premise of this program today. But first, what are you doing with Jimmy Smith or anybody else on your programs?
Another action-packed week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all shows on Twitter @Superpodcasts or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. This week on the Super Studcast, available for patrons of Ron Fuller's Studcast, it is a special look at Mr. Wrestling 2. The Tennessee Stud speaks to Cowboy Bill Watts, Mr. Olympia Jerry Stubbs, Bob Armstrong, and longtime Georgia referee Bobby Simmons, all about Johnny Walker, Mr. Wrestling 2. Check that out today. Patreon.com/Studcast. It is a great episode with many wrestling legends. Once again, Patreon.com/Studcast.
Do you know what Jerry Stubbs' nickname was in the locker room when he was Mr. Olympia?
I do not.
Old P-head.
His nickname to his face or behind his back?
Well, possibly a little of both, depending on who was saying it. But here's the thing. Jerry Stubbs, Mr. Olympia, right? He, in his Alabama days, in his prime, he was huge. He was jacked up, had a big chest, big arms, great physique. And the problem was Jerry Stubbs, it was kind of like one of those Mil Mascaras deals where Mr. Olympia looked so cool with that gold lame mask on and the design and everything. And he had a body of a Greek god, but when he took that mask off, it was Jerry Stubbs and he was balder than Arn Anderson. And I think he's missing a front tooth. But also his head, when he put that mask on, because his body was so big, his head was so small. It mashed what hair he did have flat down. And Dennis Condrey especially used to call him pea head because he just had a head like a pea on top of that huge body. It was fucking comical. But that was what a great worker and should have been a big star in any number of territories. He was big in Louisiana and Alabama, but he didn't travel. But what a great worker. But he was one of those guys that he looked a whole lot better with that mask on, except for that little tiny head.
Mr. Olympia was fantastic in Mid-South Wrestling once again. Get past the insults and listen to his memories of Mr. Wrestling 2 on the Super Studcast. A few other notes. One, stick to wrestling with John McAdam. A few great shows lately, including one with Randy Smith, Memories of Hamburg, Pennsylvania's WWF TV tapings, and also this past week, a look at WCW Nitro, a random episode from the year 2000. Hear all about it and so much more. McAdamPod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcast. Also want to announce a brand new podcast coming to the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. It is a monthly show charting the territories. You can get information at chartingthepodcast.com. Of course, you can go to chartingtheterritories.com and actually see what this is. Al Getz and John Boucher will be bringing you this show. It is a data-driven look at wrestling history. Heavy on research, heavy on statistics and analytics, and applying them to wrestling history in order to find a new way to judge what was really going on in the territory. This is fascinating stuff. If you are a wrestling geek, you will love this show, and I believe we're going to have Al Getz here on The Experience very soon to talk a little bit about his research. That's right, because I'm a geek, and I love the wrestling. But once again, get information right now. Subscribe today, available wherever you find your favorite podcast, the Charting the Territories podcast, or go to chartingthepodcast.com. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership! Thank you, big boy. Can I come in the hot tub? We are trying to finish up editing. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. We are very hopeful we will have the new episode out in the next several days. I apologize to everyone for the endless delays here. It's been one of the wildest couple of weeks. Endless delays. It's been a pretty crazy couple of weeks in the world of Arcadian Vanguard, but thank you to everyone. We've had record numbers going through the archives. 605pod.com. We really appreciate it, and stay tuned for more information. I swear it's coming. The mothership will be landing soon. The 605 Super Podcast. There's a joke there, but I'd probably get canceled for it. I swear it's coming. The mothership will land soon. And I guess we should just tell them also, keep subscribing to the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, because we're over 140,000 now, right? That's right. The march to 1 million continues. The next big barrier to get knocked over is 150,000 subscribers, and we're about to get there. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and just search for Jim Cornette. It'll pop right up. Of course, everyone's been going crazy. Travis Heckle's artwork gets funnier and funnier and better each and every time he puts a new one out. And I can't talk. I'm just babbling like a fucking idiot. And go to the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel and check out Travis's artwork. Here, some of the great moments from the drive-thru and the experience, full episodes, clips of episodes, and omnibus collections. And real quick, Jim, on this topic, patreon.com/Cornette. For only $5 a month, you get access to the archives of the drive-thru and the experience. Another batch of episodes goes up each and every Sunday night. We just put up a bunch of episodes, including a great conversation with Adam Pearce, who, of course, is right now suffering from coronavirus, thanks WWE. But you can hear that and so much more. Patreon.com/Cornette. Like I said, so much going on in the world. Some of those shows, I forgot I did those shows. Now we've done so many over the years that now they're new to me. It's like I'm listening to another person say these things. Unfortunately, a lot of people are listening to those shows and realizing there is another person. Well, I'm talking to another person and I'm not getting much back. Someone asked if we can introduce a new tier where they could fast forward right to the episodes with me, which I'm flattered by the compliment. There,
for heaven's sake. I thought, you know what, if you could figure out a way they could just fast forward to the part where I'm talking on all the episodes, that would probably be a real winner. But anyway. So yes, do all those things, folks. All right. Hold on. Before we go any further, I'm going to crack into another 16-ounce bottle of Sprite Zero because it is a pandemic. They were short of cans. So we're all trying to do our best.
You prefer bottles over cans? Or you prefer cans over bottles?
Well, yes, because the aluminum keeps the drink colder longer. Plastic does not keep a drink as cold as aluminum. Plus, the plastic is clear, therefore light goes through it. That warms it up. And also the can is perfect at 12 ounces because it doesn't get warm before you drink it. But you always are leaving the last 4 ounces in the bottom of the bottle because it's gotten warm. And then you have to go get ice and dilute the whole goddamn thing. And then you've got stepped on Sprite Zero.
Well, hold on, a couple questions. One, do you have a refrigerator in your office? Just with Sprite?
Yes, just a small, block refrigerator or cube as they call them.
How often do you buy Sprite Zero and how much do you buy?
Well, it depends. Well, I mean, before all this happened, now we just get it wherever we can find it and as much as possible. But I would wait because a lot of times, your Kroger will have the sale where they'll sell 4 12-packs of cans for like $12. Well, in that case, I'd go and get 16 or so, and they'd be in the pantry out in the garage for a while. But I'm not going to pay $5 for a 12-pack of cans. So if it's just on regular price, I'll get 1 or 2 just to tide me over to the next stock up.
Has there been a run on Sprite Zeros the same way there's been a run on yeast and other essential items in the grocery store?
Well, yeast is yeast and nest is nest and never the main shall tweet. But no, sometimes the cans are gone, and especially because that's a punchline to an old joke about a bird that made a bird's nest in a goddamn a horse's mane. And the buildup is great, but since I've already given you the punchline, there's no reason to go backwards. But anyway, 4th of July weekend, things were short. People are stocking up on the cans. So I got the bottles here, but I'm doing my part. Pandemic. Anyway, we got a letter. We've gotten a lot of this. You've been saying you've been fielding the questions for the drive-through. I've been looking at emails whenever I've had a chance. There'll be a lot of people on Twitter. This one that I just picked at random kind of encapsulates all of the remarks, all in the same kind of general message. Dear Jim, I'm writing you on behalf of a large number of cult members who are, like you, longtime fans of pro wrestling. Since, as you well know, 90% of modern pro wrestling contains no actual pro wrestling, our enjoyment of the sport is not what it once was. However, we find rays of hope to be able to enjoy modern wrestling every time you do a review of AEW's television program. All we can see as fans is Outlaw Mud Show Wrestling. But when you, with your expert eye, take this bullshit apart piece by piece and explain how it should have been done, we not only learn a lot about wrestling, but it makes AEW somewhat enjoyable for wrestling fans as well as skateboarders, podcast hosts, and guys with 17 Twitter accounts. Since football field fuckery sent you over the edge and you swore off watching AEW, we've quit watching too. It's just no fun anymore if we can't hear you articulate what we all feel afterwards, dirty and in need of a shower. So please, JC, is there any way you can double up on your blood pressure medicine, have a calming cheeseburger, and make it worth our whiles to watch this stuff again, if only, as the kids say, ironically? Signed, Concerned Cult Members Starved for Wrestling Entertainment.
You see, that person's taking quite a negative point of view on AEW. Things may have improved in the month or so since you've watched.
Well, he mentioned AEW specifically, but modern wrestling in general. We did the NXT and AEW experiment before, and things may have changed. We came away with the idea that while AEW is the only program where you ever actually expect that you might see something that hasn't been overproduced and overscripted to the point of minutia because somebody's going to fuck something up and make something entertaining whether they mean to or not on that program, NXT is the more professional program with the better-looking athletes and more serious, although unfortunately a lot of it looks similar, whereas AEW is all over the page from the penthouse to the outhouse. So each program had its identity at that point, but ultimately NXT won us over because they're not just making a joke out of their entire show. They're not just a bunch of kids playing. They approach it professionally. Well, I feel bad that we have been getting all these requests and we haven't been giving the cult members what they wanted, but this made me think. So, Brian, you had one of your researchers come up, because I wanted to see if this was true. You had one of your researchers come up with basically the statistics, the facts of the matter over the last month or 6 weeks or so.
The ratings.
I was going to say that in a minute, but these are also the facts, the mathematics, the statistics. Apparently, at the show after Football Field Fuckery, where it was just too much, where I basically announced that same day, I cannot watch this anymore. If they're not going to take it seriously, I can't either. It's not fucking worth it. What the fuck? That was the highest rated show that they'd done since the pandemic started. And in the 4 television shows through this past weeks that they had done since then, they lost 200,000 of their viewers. They not only lost 200,000 of their viewers, but for the first time in the Wednesday Night War, they lost on June 24th last week to NXT by 150,000 viewers. And somebody was actually surprised at this on the internet. They said, wow, that's shocking. Not to me. This is as shocking as the sun coming up tomorrow. Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho was the lowest rated All Elite Wrestling segment of all time.
That is shocking.
How is that shocking?
Because one of the excuses, one of the reasons that people give for Orange Cassidy's continued presence on that show is that he actually does produce ratings. He actually does sell merch. Chris Jericho obviously has been a ratings mover, been one of the biggest stars on that show, if not the single biggest star on that show. It is shocking that an angle with those two would be the record low. I'm shocked by that. You would think it would be one of these women's matches or... Wait a minute,
was it an angle or was it a match?
It was an angle, I believe.
Was it an angle?
I don't think it was a match.
I didn't watch it.
Now
so
you're making me question.
Well, I thought that it was a match, but nevertheless, Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho, here's the problem. Yes, maybe some people like My Little Dog Pockets, and he's funny in the segment, like the Tschida segment of the Tarzan movie. The cute little chimpanzee gets to fucking mug for the camera and do a few flips in a part of the movie where we're switching and we're transitioning from one serious scene to another, and we need to lighten things up a little bit. But if suddenly Tschida came to the goddamn rescue of Tarzan and saved Tarzan from the fucking natives in the finish of the movie, people would be bullshit. You can't put the fucking joke on against the star in the main event position and expect people who, even if they're in on the joke, to go, oh, that's going to be so... He's a ratings draw if you can justify that for people who like the comedy bullshit in the middle. And that's most of AEW's audience. Apparently they started with 800,000. They're down to about 600,000. We took about 200,000. So apparently 200,000 of these fans that were watching the show are Cult of Cornette members that were watching it along with the review so they could enjoy it some way by getting the piss taken out of it. And the other 600,000 that have stayed actually like to see goofy fucking wrestling. So we have about, 30% of their audience? 25%.
Well, we don't know if everyone who has stopped watching is a member of the Cult of Cornette.
Well, no, that's because we do more than 200,000 viewers for each one of these, or listeners for each one of these podcasts.
Well, more than that, yeah.
Well, more than that. So we're not sure that all of our listeners have quit watching their show, and we're not sure that all of the people who watch their show have ever quit listening to us. But they don't hear us. They don't get it, or they'd be smarter. But anyway, the point is, I swore them off for 6 weeks. They lost 200,000 of their viewers. We've had people asking us to start reviewing this again because at least that way they can enjoy it. They also have the big doubleheader Wednesday Night War Great American Bash versus Fyter Fest. That name will go down in infamy as a badass wrestling name, Fyter Fest. 2 weeks in a row on each of the programs. They're going to be head-to-head, dueling it out, engaging in war. I wasn't just going to watch AEW. If I was going to do this, I was going to jump in with both feet and once again compare the two programs and see who did what to who. And that's what we've done. And I'm not real happy with you, Brian Last, because you gave me some bad advice.
What did I do?
We watched these shows in different order.
Yeah, we did.
And so you had already seen something I hadn't seen, and you suggested that I watch some things that I wasn't happy that I ended up sitting through.
Well, for the record, and I don't know exactly what you're going to say yet, and we're going to save it for when we review it here during this review, but what I said to you was that those segments may have been the most entertaining segments on the show. Not that they were particularly good for what you want.
Okay. So it did not good or bad, but entertaining. Okay.
Compared to the rest of the show, as comparable to the rest of the program. Yes.
All right. Yeah.
And I stand by that, by the way.
All right. Well, let's start off with NXT and get this out of the way. I shouldn't say it like that. There were some highlights, but overall, what was the Great American Bash? They just pulled that out of their ass because they wanted to have a big show to compete with, a big show theme to compete with AEW, right?
Well, do you also think it's a little bit of a screw you to Cody?
Well, exactly, because, you know, they don't use the Great American Bash, and then suddenly when they're competing with Dusty's son, yes, that's exactly the point. But what did the Great American Bash ever have to do with fucking cars painted red, white, and blue and balloons?
Nothing.
This whole fucking set looked like a game show. It looked like the set of a fucking one of these Hollywood fucking primetime game shows these days. The Great American Bash was about the 4th of July. Yes, red, white, and blue, the flag, fireworks. In Dusty's case, because he was a fan, country music and wrestling, a big bash, outdoor skydivers. They had Flair come in on a helicopter, right? I know they can't be in a big arena. They can't have all these fans, et cetera, et cetera. But when you take the small building that they've been able to do, both companies have been able to do fairly well with putting the people behind the other wrestlers behind the plexiglass to make a little noise, et cetera. But embrace that you're in a small room. Instead of the WWF does not know any other way but to spend as much money as possible. So they tricked this whole room out to where it looked like a goddamn explosion in fucking Lex Luger's Lex Express with cars and balloons and red, white, and blue and lights and everywhere. And it looked like a game show set. I wish they'd embrace their down and dirty, fucking gym fighting feel that an empty arena type of thing is best served for. And AEW, and they have an outdoor building, and their place looks fucking grittier than this goddamn, fucking little closet that the WWF were in. Anyway, I don't know. Did you like it? What were the cars there for?
No, it looks stupid that I like
it. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, the fuck? What were the cars there for? And what was it, a fucking Honda Civic? Like just so they could paint cars red, white, and blue. Anyway, the first match on NXT, it's almost like they knew I was coming back and they wanted to run me off. A women's four-way. Tegan or Tegan?
Tegan.
Tegan Knox. Well, I'll say Tegan, and you can say Tegan. We'll see who gets taken. Anyway, Knox, Dakota Kai, Mia Yim, Candice LeRae. Right off the fucking bat, I don't like men's four-ways, so I wasn't going to like this. And they did nothing to change my mind. I I don't know what to say. 4 girls running around doing moves to each other out of nowhere. And then one or more will disappear for a long period of time until it's time for them to come back and take their place in a spot. It's like an endless fucking square dance where they just all do-si-do off and on, and they run through shit so contrived you can't tell who's on offense or defense. You can't keep track of who's on whose side or who's mad at each other. And it's an elimination, not even the first pin, so goddamn, we got to suffer through a bit of this. And suddenly Candice LeRae got pinned, and everything came to a complete standstill with women standing there staring, and they went to a break. And by the way, I like Mia Yim. And I could have taken a single match amongst any of these people better than whatever the fuck it is that this was being. Anyway, in the next segment, there's 3 of them left. They ran through the spots, switching out with each other. Nothing made any sense. And then Dakota Kai pinned Mia Yim, and I wrote, I lost what interest I had to begin with now that Mia is out of the fucking thing. But she was a fireball while she was there. Then they go to the 3rd segment, and they opened up, or shortly thereafter, with Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai doing the worst 1-2 I've ever seen. I don't know if everybody's up on what a 1-2 is when they're standing in the middle of the ring and one hits one and the other one hits the other one. Punches or forearms, whatever. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. This was more like 1.5 and 3 1/4. 1.5 and 3 1/4. It was all off. It looked like middle school. They can't decide whether they want to throw punches or those little flippy pusher. They don't even do flippy forearms. The girls that work like girls do push forearms and push kicks, push stomps. That's why it's the most coveted compliment that a woman can ever get in the wrestling business in the locker room when they say about her, she works like a guy. That is a compliment, and it's not a knock, because a lot of girls work like girls, and their strikes are pushes, and they don't have weight behind it, whatever the fuck. This was some of that stuff. Push strikes. They each whiffed a slap on the other one, just completely whiffed it. Then they went into a hockey fight that looked like it broke out at Chuck E. Cheese when the fucking tokens hit the ground and the girls were scrambling for them at the birthday party. I wrote, will this ever end? Both girls together can't weigh 200 pounds collectively, or if you stacked them on top of each other, they wouldn't be 10 feet tall. This will not end. Dakota Kai hit a nice sunset flip backcracker. I've never seen done that way before. That was very interesting. My next note, they're handing AEW the ratings. Why am I watching high school cheerleaders doing wrestling moves? And then Tegan Nox did a front cannonball onto Dakota Kai off the top rope while Kai was standing, and ended up with the old bombs away whoopee cushion, and looked as stiff as fuck, like it squished her, and then hit a knee like that finish shouldn't have been a finish. She fucking does a front cannonball off the top rope, sits on this girl's chest, looked like it caved her sternum in, but I better hit her in the head with a knee just to make sure. 1, 2, 3. The first 27 minutes of this television program was 4 girls doing shit to each other back and forth for no apparent reason. So right off the bat, a fucking set of color bars on TNT could have competed with this for ratings. What'd you think?
I wasn't crazy about it. Similar to you, I'm not a fan of 4-ways or 3-ways. I think it's a booking crutch.
Not in wrestling, at least.
No, not in wrestling.
3-ways or 4-ways in wrestling, I'm not a fan of.
I don't know what goes on over at Castle Cornette, but in terms of wrestling, don't like it. I agree with you. I really thought Mia Yim was great. I like Dakota Kai. I remember when we were watching it a while ago, I told you that I thought she was such a good babyface, so easy to get sympathy. And she's been really good as a heel. I like her personality-wise. I thought there was some cool stuff with her and Tegan Nox. They have a history. But overall, went way too long. I wouldn't have started the show with this. I wouldn't have had a 4-way. But what do I know?
You just work here.
I just booked G.I. Joe wrestling federations when I was a kid. That's all I did.
Well, I can vouch for your opinion, and I've booked a few other things. And no, this is not one of them that should have been booked. Give me 2 singles matches between these 4 girls spread out over the show where we can actually understand anything that anybody does, and they can show what they can do rather than just meaningless shit over and over. Anyway.
You know what else is interesting? I think I noticed it on Candice LeRae. I want to say Penelope Ford, the same thing. Maybe even Scarlett Bordeaux. I haven't gotten a good look at her because there's usually lights going off and all sorts of things happening when...
Smoke bombs.
I don't know what's going on there.
Japanese anime-induced seizures.
It's like Cirque du Soleil has a new gig, getting her to the ring. But it seems like a lot of women now, I guess once they turn heel, they dye their hair gray. Have you noticed that? Not blonde, but gray.
I saw that. I thought maybe it was Halloween. I didn't recognize. But I don't fucking know. And did you know also Candice LeRae has a stink face? That she gives. You know what the stink face is, right?
I think so.
When you kind of squint your eyes up and it like a nearsighted person trying to see without their glasses on, and your forehead right there in between your eyes comes to a little point with the little wrinkle point there. She's got the stink face where she's like that. I don't know. But anyway, no, this would have been a main event on AEW television, but didn't need to be here. And speaking of, who is the blonde interviewer now on NXT? I think she's new.
I don't know. She's new to me too.
Did anybody ever bother? I know the answer to this, but I want to see did anybody ever bother to say what her name was? Or was she just standing there asking questions when they would come to it?
I don't recall her name, so maybe.
Exactly. Never got a chyron or a graphic on a screen or whatever. Okay, so blonde girl with Damian Priest. And say, I'm not being sexist or disrespectful when they won't identify their on-camera talent. And it's not like she's goddamn Katharine Hepburn standing there. Everybody in the fucking world would know. Yes, I went to a dated fucking classic movie reference. But it's Madonna, anybody, Taylor Swift. Identify your fucking on-camera talent. Anyway, blonde girl with Damian Priest. I love his voice. He speaks. He actually sounds like a man. Have you noticed that nobody has a man's voice anymore? Everybody sounds like this. Like it's just old Amy. He sounds like a guy. He speaks well. He looks good. He needs a little more conviction in his delivery, I think, but I like this guy. So, of course, all he did was a fucking promo. And we never saw him again. But then going once again, flying from the fucking outhouse to the penthouse, then we go with Timothy Thatcher and Oney Lorcan. Besides, who the fuck named Oney Lorcan and why didn't someone stop them? It's not even the same fucking television program. It's not the same product. It's not the same. We went from women's gymnastics to a goddamn pretty serviceable worked fucking mixed martial arts contest. It doesn't even, maybe if they'd have put this on first, maybe they could have hooked some people while they billboarded their big matches later on, because at least it wasn't just gaga that you zone out on. They did a little modern type of Billy Robinson, Tony Charles stuff mixed with an old fashioned, like an amateur match when you had a guy in the territories that had an amateur background, and they do a little of this stuff. And this is what Eddie Graham used to say. It's good to have on the card. It gives credibility to the proceedings. Nothing insulting or silly. This is the last thing probably that the modern wrestling fans who like the, flips and the car wrecks would watch or understand or want to get into. And this is not a goddamn match that's supposed to tear the house down like a thrilling fucking grudge match. This is what you put on your show to give it a little credibility, to expose a couple of guys that look like athletes and fucking, sell wrestling. and you educate your fans to shit like this so that when the stuff that gets wild, this is what it's supposed to get wild from. If it's all wild, then none of it's wild and it never breaks loose. So they had a nice contest. Second part of the thing, second segment, they picked it up with the strikes and the throws. They were laying in their chops and forearms. It was nice to see Thatcher get a sugar hold. I was thinking about William Harding. Even though he didn't actually lock the sugar in all the way, though, to really fuck with somebody. But then he gets the Fujiwara armbar and Lorcan tapped. And like it was a nice match. It never went into high gear with big dramatic bullshit back and forth. And that would kind of spoil the flavor of what they were doing. They were trying to work a straight contest. So I have to give this one a bunch of points just for being a good, solid match and not embarrassing the business while that they got some of their talent exposed. It's not the match that the fucking kids and the clowns like, but it's fucking solid. And Mauro Ranallo got to do some good stuff here because he got to talk about Fujiwara and Robinson and a catch wrestling background. And Beth was actually good because they give her these fucking writer's notes where, you know, if it's one of the fucking more cinematic efforts that the writers are doing, and she'll have to read something like, well, Derek Loomis or Dexter Loomis is certainly inside the brain of Roderick Strong and trying to drive him insane or whatever, all this bullshit. But here she could actually analyze fucking wrestling because she knows that shit. So she sounded good. This made everybody sound good and look good. It wasn't just a fucking joke car crash match that nobody was taking seriously or that just did shit for no reason. So, but boy, what a fucking departure from the first match. It's almost like now this show, remember we said NXT was always pretty consistent all the way through, and AEW was schizophrenic. They had a pretty fucking wide flux here. What'd you think of old Timothy Thatcher and Oni?
I really liked it.
Opie Lorcan.
No, it's Lonely Orca.
Lonely Orca.
No, I really liked it. This is now the second time. I've heard so much about Timothy Thatcher throughout the last few years, but I only really started watching him recently. That match with Matt Riddle, the fight cage or whatever they called it.
Yes, we liked that. We really liked that.
That was phenomenal. Pit. Yeah, and here's another match. I like him. I like his style. I hope it's somehow something that influences other people on that roster or people running that roster. Really good. On the topic of commentators.
And by the way, just since you brought that up, when they have matches like this and expose people to this style of trying to be a legitimate looking contest as much as possible and not putting all the bells and whistles on it, that's the kind of match that if you can get that over with Thatcher, it's not going to tear the house down on television every time. But if you have him have those matches with guys that can do them, then you build the fight pit as his specialty. And then you've got something, you've got a history behind the guy. He has a certain distinct style that he's better at than everybody else. And then like Wahoo McDaniel bringing a strap match in. Then finally Thatcher wants the fucking pit match to settle the thing. And that's how you educate people to shit. You don't just give them the car wreck right off the fucking bat. You let them watch people successfully drive cars first, and then you fucking make them pay for the wreck.
On the topic of commentators, I thought Mauro did a good job. I like Beth. Every time I hear Beth do commentary, I know that sometimes she's doing prepared material, but overall, I think she's really good. Tom Phillips, who's, otherwise known as generic Michael Cole #2, I didn't think he added much. I don't know why they feel that every announced team needs to be 3 people. I know he was the only guy on site, I guess. Mauro and Beth were doing it via remote.
Boy, I can't imagine doing that. I've never done a show where I was doing that. I've done pre-tape announcing, or you know what I'm saying. I've announced voiced over pre-taped matches. I've done live to tape. I've never done a show where one of my co-announcers was not sitting next to me. That's got to be weird.
It has to be weird, but I just thought he was unnecessary.
Well, 3 are too many. And if you got Morrow, for fuck's sake, just have somebody like Beth for color and contrast and get the fuck out of the way. And I thought it was Michael Cole, actually, until I saw the on camera, because he sounds just like Michael Cole.
They talk the same as Michael Cole. They move their hands nonstop, like a mix between Michael Cole and Kenny Omega. All of these commentators that have come up during the Michael Cole era, by and large, they're fucking garbage.
Well, say what you really think.
Oh, I always do.
All right, anyway, the next match, AEW has no monopoly on not knowing how to book shit, and I can't believe that they couldn't pull this off. But some way or another, they got Rhea Ripley in a situation where she is in a handicap match against Robert Stone, who is now the heel manager, right, putting a stable together, and his girl that he already has, Aaliyah. And if Rhea Ripley loses this match, then she has to join up with Robert Stone. Okay. This has happened over the last couple months. We haven't been watching NXT. But here we go. This shouldn't have been this difficult. If they're going to do this kind of stipulation, if they're going to have a guy that's a heel manager putting a sports stable together, whatever the fuck, these parts are not difficult, but apparently nobody knows how to tell these people how to play these parts. Rhea Ripley, by the way, will start off with, as always, looks like somebody. She's different. What a fucking star. The facials, the smile, the fucking, just the entrance with the big hacksaw Duggan foot stomp, the body language, and she works like a guy. She knows what she's doing. She's a natural. So I obviously am not against the idea of having manager matches in this situation. And obviously the manager and this girl, Aaliyah, who's smaller, would need to be a handicap match, but they didn't even work the fucking handicap match right. They're still, the team is still supposed to be tagging, and the manager, he's trying to do the pussy manager bit. And believe me, I know this one better than anybody. Now, I stole all my stuff from Heenan and Jimmy Hart and blah, blah, blah. He's got a better body than anybody on the AEW roster. This fucking guy, he's like, what, 5% body fat? He's fucking tan. He's got a hell of a chest spread. His legs are fucking tiny. They might break off and stick up his ass one of these days. But he starts playing, in quotation marks, playing wimp manager by being obviously silly, and then takes first bump of the match, a funny bump on purpose. And you can tell. And then the girl starts heat on Ripley right away. This was completely ass backwards. The whole idea is Aaliyah starts with Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley, because she's bigger and a babyface and a better wrestler, she bumps her around until Aaliyah wants some relief and tries to tag out. But Stone ain't having none of it. He's giving her some coaching, but he ain't tagging. Then the people, such as they are there, start getting on his ass and wanting him to fucking tag in. And his fucking girl takes another few bumps and goes back and he won't tag. And she's getting pissed. And Ripley takes over again. And finally, the girl gets fucking bumped ass over tea kettle and runs over and tags fucking Stone before he knows what's going on. Oh, shit. Now Ripley gets her fucking hands on him, jerks him into the goddamn ring. Now he's trying to get away because he's a coward. He's gutless. He's a dickless chicken shit heel manager. Of course, he looks like a fucking buffed, ripped bodybuilder, but we're going to ignore that for the time being. And he tries to get out, and she pulls him back in, and she goes to do something big, but that's when the goddamn heel girl cuts her off from behind. And then the heel girl gets the heat. And the guy comes in to do something once or twice that backfires. He misses an elbow or can't do a move, or she fires up on him, gets him by the neck. And each time, the other girl, the heel girl, cuts her off until finally he wants to put fucking Rhea away. He's legal. And goddamn, something fucking happens, and Rhea makes a comeback and then gets to bump the fucking heel manager a time or two. And then, since the babyface is going over in this match anyway, then beat the fucking manager. But instead, this was all backwards, and the girl got on Rhea right away, and then Rhea would fucking come back out from under. And at one point, did you see Ripley chases the manager, and the manager does a dive over the top rope to the floor and misses, and is not carried out on a stretcher, showing that he can do all the shit that the boys can do. If you got a pussy heel manager, he needs to look physically like a lump of shit like I did. And he needs to be convincing that he's a clueless putz that doesn't know what he's doing, like I was. And then finally, Aaliyah would stop Rhea Ripley or whatever the fuck. They go to a break. When they came back to the second segment of this, Stone and Aaliyah both had a submission hold on Rhea Ripley at the same time right in front of the referee. The referee's allowing it. They're not only not doing tags, but they're just allowed to just do that, which makes the referee look like an idiot and makes the match look stupid. Even if it's supposed to be two in the ring at the same time, you're getting no heat. You're doing it blatantly out in the open. If you rob a bank and nobody tries to stop you, does anybody give a shit whether you get away or not? The fucking urgency is created by the fucking cops trying to get you to fucking stop. Anyway, horrible match, completely backwards. Stone is horrible at doing any kind of manager shit. Rhea Ripley made a comeback and they tried to get too contrived. I love her shit, but there was a lot of awkward shit where she was throwing Aaliyah into Stone. And I don't know if she ever really did just fucking bump Stone the way she should have directly, but then she got her fucking, which this was cool, she got her leg cloverleaf on both of them and got a double tap out. So she stood tall in the end and beat the fuck out of both of them and got a double tap out, but it actually could have been, it was a waste of Rhea Ripley. It could have been better if they'd have got some heat on the heel manager during the match to see her finally get her hands on him. And secondly, unless they just don't give a fuck about this Aaliyah, she didn't really need to beat both of them. She could have beaten him, saved the fucking other girl. But I have you ever seen anybody worse at trying to be an ineffective, physically ineffective, unthreatening heel manager and at the same time show everybody that that's exactly what he was trying to do, was trying to be on purpose a physically ineffective pussy heel manager?
They should have put him in a bodysuit like you used to wear so you wouldn't see how cut he was.
Oh my God. Yes. They should have fucking put a fat suit on him where he'd look flabby or something, but goddamn. It was people who have heard tales of spots that fucking they would do in manager matches back before they were born, and they tried to put that together. But it's fucking rotten. Fucking rotten. I love Rhea Ripley. She deserves better than that.
I don't know why they're booking her into this kind of program. They broke up WrestleMania. It was her and Charlotte.
Yeah.
My favorite match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I think since then she's been in this weird feud with Robert Stone and his group of wrestlers. Why? I mean, why are, they have so many women on that roster. They could do something better with Rhea Ripley than this.
Hopefully she didn't piss somebody off and they're trying to fucking get even with her, but goddamn. All right, speaking of pissing somebody off and getting even. Good Lord, Roderick Strong, who the fuck is he pissed off? He's got to work a program with Dexter Lumis. And I like Sam Shaw when I saw him as a rookie several years ago. I hate this fucking Dexter Lumis gimmick. I said it before and it's more boring now. You've heard of Shawn Michaels having a match with a ladder, according to Ric Flair. Roderick Strong just had a match with a leather belt. They did the horror movie video where Roddy's scared of car trunks, and I like horror type vignettes if it's just the guy and you're featuring the guy in it. We did one for Leviathan here in OVW. They've done them for Undertaker. I did one for Kane, whatever the fuck. When the opponent is in the video kind of going along with it, like, oh yeah, he's driving me insane, I'm freaking out, he really is whatever the fuck, I'm losing my patience with it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody believes Dexter Lumis is a psychopath because, as we mentioned when we reviewed his last match, besides the fact that they're wanting him to work in a plodding, facially monotone manner, he ain't Terry Funk or he ain't the Sheik. He can't just convince people with the look on his face and his body language that he's really goddamn lost it. It's just plodding. And I wrote down, they're feeding Beth scripted horseshit about Roddy losing his sanity. And Blackface Ref is back. What's his name? I forgot. We figured this out one time. The referee that looks like he's wearing blackface.
I'm not sure.
Okay, go back and look, and you won't be able to look away again. This guy tans so deeply and so darkly in his face that where his hairline is, it looks like he's wearing blackface. It looks like he's permanently sooted his face. He's so fucking tan. Can you actually see the skin cancer cells multiplying in front of your eyes? What the fuck? It's distracting. Anyway. This was Roderick Strong. He did everything. He was all the action. He bumped. He sold. He fucking did everything off of Dexter Lumis and the strap. Dexter Lumis was neither crazy nor pissed off. He was just moving forward at a steady pace like he was underwater. Roddy had the match by himself and kept it going. The strap in a lot of cases got in the way. Dexter Lumis was not Wahoo. Roddy tried to use it. So Roddy tried everything, but this started going way long. I wrote here at one point, Lumis works like he's got a sleepwalker gimmick instead of a fucking psychopath gimmick. This was as close as I can describe to Roderick Strong actually having a match with a blow-up doll or inanimate object. And then Bobby Fish comes to ringside and trips Lumis up, and they get a 2 count, and then Lumis whips Roddy into Bobby and got Roddy to tap to a messed up hold of some description that I don't believe was applied like it was supposed to have been, because I wasn't sure what the fuck they were doing. And I wrote, whew, there you have it. Glad that's over. Poor Roddy. I mean, he needs some kind of fucking cup or major award or one of those fucking leg lamps like A Christmas Story or something for going through this whole thing. Am I missing something with what they're doing with Dexter Lumis?
I don't think so. Again, I've not watched too much NXT, but I wasn't a fan of this match. I'm not exactly a fan of what I've seen of Dexter Lumis so far. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, he looks good and he can work. It's just that they're telling him to do that. He's working like the Undertaker under the theory that he's this, psycho serial killer, stalker, mental patient, whatever, it ain't Michael Myers. Sorry. Anyway, from there, we get a package on what I'm looking forward to next week, Adam Cole and Keith Lee, for the double title unification. I'm looking forward to it a little bit less after hearing, again, I hear Keith Lee speak. A guy that looks like the Hulk and speaks like an English professor. This verbiage especially from a big, bad, kick-ass, huge, giant, former fucking pro football player, he sounds flowery, scripted. Who would say these things? Who would talk like this? Cole sounded genuine. Even if they're scripting him too, he delivers it. He had some oomph to it. Keith Lee just kind of sits back and is very introspective with his comment. I mean, does it fit what you're looking at? I don't know.
No.
How can I say this?
No, he's not a very good promo. Or at least they're not giving him good material and they're forcing him to do the material.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to hear a guy that sounds like a fucking college professor, but looks like a goddamn, giant behemoth that would eat your fucking head off.
You have Luchasaurus on the other channel.
Oh, God. Well, we'll get to that here shortly. But it was a nice build for the match with the package. But, I would want to see Keith Lee do more Hulk smash and less, sounding like fucking Samantha Stevens' father, Maurice, in Bewitched. Anyway, then we go backstage. And by the way, that was noted Shakespearean actor Maurice Evans playing that role of Samantha Stevens' father. Anyway, backstage, Johnny Gargano, he of the monotone face, and Candice LeRae, she of the gray hair with the unknown girl, interviewer. And then LeRae runs and jumps Mia Yim, and Gargano shoved some other guy, and they had a big pull apart with all the referees, and every single one of the referees was taller than all the fucking talent. Holy shit. Then comes to the ring a group name that I could not understand nor pronounce when I saw it written, but it's Santos Escobar with Mendoza and Wild all in suits. And their story is that historic Lucha Libre has been turned into a sideshow with guys in masks doing flips for no reason. Join the fucking club, guys. It's the same way for y'all down there. Just hearing about this? It's an epidemic. It's a global pandemic. All wrestling has been turned into a joke sideshow with guys in masks doing flips. Anyway, Drake Maverick comes out and interrupts him in his neck brace, but he takes the neck brace off and jumps all three of them and got shit kicked out of him because he ain't bigger than a hiccup. And here came Tyler Breeze and Fandango to make a rotten save where they kind of did some choreographed shit and the heels bailed. I mean, the heel Lucha group looked pretty good standing there in the suits. I'm interested to see, a little bit more about them. Drake Maverick, he was Rockstar Spud. I met the young man here. He's a very polite man, very wonderful kid. He's just painfully small, and I haven't seen what all they've done with him. I hear that he's quite a popular cult figure, but this is, I don't know that the historic Lucha Libre group is going to be immediately fed into the main events if they're interacting with Tyler Breeze, Fandango, and Drake Maverick. Did I miss anything about the Lucha group?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, I'm getting caught up with NXT like you are. But in terms of Drake Maverick, you got to remember this is the painfully small era. So it works.
The PSE, the painfully small era. All righty. Well, that blonde girl has a name because Cameron Grimes called her Mackenzie, and I think she's that blonde interviewer that was in TNA a couple years ago when I stopped in for a week or so. But at least he called her by her name, so now somebody knows who she is. Cameron Grimes can talk a little bullshit, and this was halfway fun for about 45 seconds. It ended too quickly. It was actually something different with somebody doing something that sounded like a wrestler cutting a wrestling promo on a wrestling show. And guess what the main event was? Io Shirai versus Sasha Banks. This main evented week 1 of the Great American Bash. I wrote Dusty spins in his grave and I close up early. Good day to you, Great American Bash.
You didn't even watch the main event?
No, are you fucking? I watched the as much as I could tolerate of this whole show, and if they're going to give me Io Shirai and Sasha Banks as a fucking main event on what's supposed to be called the Great American Bash, fuck them. And besides that, what this should have been, this should have been the Ladies Professional Wrestling Association, the LPWA, featuring several male co-stars or guest stars. Because it was practically a women's wrestling show with a couple of guys stuck in the middle. So, no, I didn't fucking watch it. Because, goddamn, I had more bad wrestling to watch on the other channel. If they'd have put that on first instead of the 4-way girls abortion, I would have watched Io Shirai and Sasha Banks, and they'd have probably had a fairly decent match. But instead, I've seen 4 girls fucking do bullshit for 27 minutes, and then in my opinion, the best girl they got on the fucking roster works with a subpar manager and some underneath girl, and I'm going to watch another girls match? I think not.
Okay, well, looking at my scorecard here, you liked Thatcher versus Lonely Orca, and you liked the Cameron Grimes interview.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the only 2 things that
I liked everything that Roderick Strong did to try to fucking make that palatable. And Damian Priest has a nice voice, and Adam Cole's got a nice verbal delivery. That's pretty much it, right?
I guess so. So that's week 1 of the Great American Bash.
Well, I was thinking after I saw that, you know what? This might be a gimme. They gave AEW the fucking ratings of the first half hour of the show, having a 30-minute girls fiasco. They did have several heavily hyped matches on AEW, so I'm thinking NXT may have just fucking given this to them. Let's see what they do with it. Boy, things can start off good and taper off fast, can't they?
Yes. Indeed.
Okay. Our announced team is Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, the Masked Excrement, and special guest Chris Jericho. And most of them were dressed up like Don Ho. Well, Jericho had his Canada Day jacket on, but Tony had the Hawaiian shirt, and I guess, it's the Florida, it's Fyter Fest, whatever. Even Justin Roberts, the world's friendliest ring announcer, looked like, as JR said, the illegitimate son of George Hamilton. But the first match on this show, this can't miss, MJF and Wardlow versus Jungle Boy and Dino Douche. When we had talked last time about MJF's involvement in the Wardlow versus Dino Douche singles match that they foisted off on everybody. And I said, booking 101 is put the good shit and the tease of big stuff on free TV, and then put on your big match where you make them, or your big show where you make them pay to see it. Then you put the fucking big guys together because you can fucking put a few bells and whistles on it. Maybe you can disguise it. Maybe you just have to steal one, as we used to say, when you put a stinky match that people really want to see between two people that are going to have a sucky match because they don't know how to work with each other. But you know it's going to sell tickets. That's called stealing one. Steal a match, or steal a pay-per-view, or steal a house with this shitty match that nobody's going to want to see anymore. That's what I meant. You should have put the tag match on where you got MJF and Jungle Boy to do the work, tease the big guys, and then book a return where once again you're going to have to cover it up with smoke and mirrors, but at least you didn't have the shitty match first. So they're going backwards on this. But anyway, I like MJF's new robe. It was awful in a great heel way. MJF tried to start his promo before the B-roll was done, and the announcers were still calling it, which is a bad production communication. I can't believe that they would have told him about that, and he wouldn't have remembered it, knowing how sharp he is. So I bet you nobody told him. But once he got started talking, the promo of the night or of the week, possibly the month, biting and truth-telling, this was worth watching the whole show just to hear this promo for, a minute and a half. Just about Dino Douche, and your tongue ain't the only thing, it's green, and et cetera, et cetera. He takes the piss out of people, so that was a highlight. The baby faces came out with serious looks and not doing their normal shit, but they still brought the little goof with them, Stunted Groves, so it can't be serious as long as the fucking kid's out there. So if they're going to if Jungle Boy and Dino Douche are willing to sabotage their own Major League Wrestling careers on a national television program by associating with this little piece of shit because it's funny, then more power to them. But that's just what they're doing because nobody's ever going to take them seriously as a main event attraction, either one of them or both together if the team lasts that long. And they've got this goofy little snaggletooth trailer park fucking midget next to them. So I'm sorry. And then, of course, what do? They take right over on Jungle Boy with a little help from Wardlow. He tried to do one of those goofy moves to MJF. MJF didn't go for it. And they get some good heel heat, and Wardlow looks like a monster. And they kept Jungle Boy alive while he was selling and fighting for the tag. And then they even did a nice false tag. So far, they're I'm sure MJF put this together. He's got to be the smartest one in the bunch. Wardlow's green, Jungle Boy's green, Dino Douche is Dino Douche. So they built it good, and they did a great setup for Jungle Boy to foil the double belly to back. MJF gives Jungle Boy a belly to back. Boom. Then he has fucking Wardlow do it. Boom. Then they both go to do it, and Jungle Boy flips over backwards, ducks under, dives over, and gets a real hot tag, which you barely ever see. And here comes the fucking dinosaur and instead of making a big man comeback, serious comeback, punches, shoot-offs, pickups, and throwdowns, he comes in with that klutzy fucking stance, those awkward fucking kicks, and brought the fucking energy down. That's all he needs to do is be able to make a comeback, and he insists on doing that fucking bullshit dime store savant instead of just doing what he needs to do. Punch, clothesline, shoot off, press slam, big backdrop, whatever. Just be big. You can't do anything else because you're awkward. Anyway, they did an awkward spot there where MJF tagged Wardlow in while Dino Douche was going for something, and then the two big guys have an awkward big man fight again. And then a cold tag to the partners. I think they gave him too much time on this, or Jungle Boy and MJF should have gone longer at the start. Every time you get the big guys in, it needs to be where they're going home, because if it's not, you got to start all over again afterwards. Then they did. Jungle Boy hit 3 big dives on MJF, third one over the top and tore the quote-unquote house down, but at least it was up and it's action. And then here comes Dino Douche and did a dive that he had no business doing. The guy that size doesn't have to do. Just because you can cut your own ear off doesn't mean you're Van Gogh, you long-haired, dreadlocked, vapid, dinosaur-brained idiot. He almost broke Wardlow's leg. Did you see that? When that big, tall, heavy, tattooed-up fucker came over the top rope, barely cleared the ring apron, and landed on Wardlow's fucking leg. If he'd have broke his fucking leg, if I'd have been Tony Khan and one of my budding future superstars got a broken leg from Dino Douche doing a dive he shouldn't have done anyway, I'd have fucking gone out there with a fucking stick. Anyway, Jungle Boy then hits Wardlow with that stupid reverse Hurricane Rana and almost killed him. And everybody was laid out. Then they did some synchronized stuff that lost me. Then the kid got thrown around. Wardlow threw Marco Stunt out everywhere. Then Wardlow overshot a senton that he shouldn't be doing. Wardlow, the goddamn giant bodyguard, he does a senton off the top and flies completely over the top of fucking the baby face. And then MJF gets in there, but MJF gets the ring. And he goes to hit Dino Douche, who Wardlow is holding, but Dino Douche ducks. But of course, that would be too simple and old-fashioned wrestling. So MJF holds up and stops, but then Dino Douche kicks MJF's elbow, which drives MJF's fist into Wardlow's face. What the and once again, to hand it to MJF, he not only did it fairly fucking good, where it looked actually like it could almost fucking happen, but his timing was good on it. And right as fucking, by the way, Dino Douche had moved, MJF yells at Wardlow, "Why can't you do anything right?" So then, boom, fist into Wardlow's face. The faces then dump MJF, double team Wardlow, and pinned him. Pinned him. Let me say it again. Pinned him. Of all of the booking malpractice and malfeasance that we've seen from this amateur hour fucking crew, this may have been the worst one. You have a middle card babyface team that is at best a warm place for Jungle Boy to remain until you decide to make him a star. And you beat a new and up and coming and main event level heel bodyguard attraction in a fucking TV match. Boom. And you're already going to split up or cause problems between or break up or have issues amongst MJF and his bodyguard Wardlow, who just did they make their television debut together maybe 4 months ago and then haven't been on more than half the time because of the pandemic? Have MJF and Wardlow been on this national television program together in a friendly manner more than 6 or 7 times?
Well, yes, I think they've been on more than that.
Go back and count. Somebody go back and count. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it, but I want a goddamn accurate number. How many times have Wardlow and MJF been featured together, and not even just to stand there on a pre-tape, but hey, I'll even take that, but actually in the building, competing together, one cornering the other as a team 6, 7, 8 times. I guarantee you. Now, let me ask you a question. What would it have been like if after Big Bubba Rogers and I had appeared together, after he'd been my bodyguard 6 or 7 TVs, if I started yelling at him and telling him he didn't know what he was doing and teasing the breakup that's going to happen soon? Would anybody have cared?
No.
No, because there's no history. And this is fucking ludicrous to do this quick, especially when the guy hadn't been on television regularly because of the pandemic. And it's your fault because he could have taped shit. He could have been seen every fucking week via fucking Zoom or whatever the kids do. And maybe Wardlow couldn't have been next to him because maybe they live in different places, but he could have been talking about him. Whatever the fuck. The point is, it takes repetition over weeks and weeks and months to build a relationship between talent that anybody is going to give a fuck if it gets broken up and they split on each other or not. And Big Bubba Rogers was with me on fucking 5 television shows a week, every week, for 2 years practically. They sent him down to Kansas City for a little while, but he came back. Sent him to UWF, he came back. And here's this thing. Of course, we never turned on each other, but you don't think if Bubba hadn't have got mad at the Starrcade 87 payoff and returned Vince McMahon's phone call to become an opponent for Hulk Hogan, with 1988 as it happened with Crockett and the NWA, business was down the first 6 months of the year. Dusty was trying a lot of different talent, a lot of different things to get it back by the Bash that summer, and when they did, but then obviously sale talks were already in the works. Let me ask you what would have happened if Big Bubba Rogers had turned on the Midnight Express and saved Dusty Rhodes. What kind of box office would Dusty Rhodes, and at that time, with that 2 years of history, Dusty Rhodes and Big Bubba Rogers versus the Midnight Express, Dusty Rhodes and Big Bubba Rogers versus the Four Horsemen, Dusty Rhodes and Big Bubba Rogers versus Warlord and Barbarian, the Powers of Pain, the guys that took out the Road Warriors. Big Bubba would have been a huge fucking babyface. And this was a guy who was drawing fucking huge money in his rookie year. Dusty and him setting that fucking 16,000 people in Pittsburgh. $100,000 house in the Omni, blah, 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 all this other shit. But if he'd have done that after fucking 3 months of television or 6 or 8 or 10 appearances, nobody would have give a fuck. And he wouldn't have done that. What is Wardlow? If Wardlow and MJF split up, you're going to make MJF a babyface? Are you kidding? No. Does that make Wardlow a babyface? Why the fuck would Wardlow be a babyface? This big fucking killer that's got all this potential. Leave them together for a fucking year and a half. Let MJF talk him over. Let Wardlow get nothing but wins and things to add to his invincible aura. And then maybe Cody or some top babyface finds a chink in his armor, but he's always left with an out until finally MJF is too abusive even to him. And it has to be simple. What about if I had with Big Bubba just started talking about how I was the brains and Big Bubba was the brawn, as he does everything I say and we're unstoppable. And then I start maybe telling Bubba, pick that up. I want to show it to Tony Schiavone, and start to treat him like a flunky, but not even realizing I'm doing it. Or maybe talk about how if Dusty Rhodes was the U.S. heavyweight champion and he was defending the title, maybe he's going to give a shot to Big Bubba. No, I want Bobby Eaton to have that shot because Bubba could destroy Dusty, but he's liable to get disqualified because Bubba's not a wrestler. He's just a beast. I want my wrestler to get in there, somebody that's smarter than Dusty Rhodes, and Bobby can win that title. And just do backhanded shit to Bubba until finally, when all three of us are on fucking dusty roads, Bubba's the only one that's looking around like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Big save. What's Wardlow gonna fucking do? Who's he gonna help? Or who's he gonna fucking hurt? He has no history with anybody. It's all meaningless. And you can't make Wardlow a babyface. Who's he gonna team with? The whole goddamn thing is flawed, and that the biggest problem they have is lack of delineation of their heels and their baby faces to begin with. So now they're going to split these guys up. Wardlow is good for MJF's picture. MJF's a main event fucking level attraction. They haven't fucked up yet, although I guess they're going to get to it. Wardlow is a project for the future, and they're fucking beating them and splitting them up against middle card fucks like the Dino douche. Horrible booking. What'd you think?
I thought it was a fun match, all things considered. However, as you just so eloquently put out there, I thought the booking, specifically the finish, was highly questionable. I wouldn't be teasing MJF and Wardlow splitting up. I said this to you a few weeks ago when I first noticed they were doing this. I was like, why would they be doing this now? But secondly, I wouldn't beat Wardlow.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I don't know
they
what
beat and a guy who had built up some kind of invincible aura with by a preliminary babyface tag team, undercard babyface tag team. And then, like I said, until they decide to pull the trigger on Jungle Boy, that's what they are.
And like you said, he's a big guy. I'm not saying he should be working like Big John Studd. But if everyone on the show does a senton, if everyone on the show does a dive, why should he do it too? I don't know what to do. I like Wardlow. I think he has a lot of potential. He has a great look. He gets fired up in a match and you kind of believe him. I think Wardlow and MJF are both great. I think Jungle Boy has a world of potential. I question AEW's booking, which I've done regularly going back to the beginning of AEW. I don't think they have any idea what they're doing here.
And it's not Wardlow's fault because he's green and he doesn't know how to take care of himself, especially in things that happen on the spur of the moment, such as that deal where he had to jump out of the ring when the baby faces hit the ring a few weeks ago. And he should never back up, but that confrontation should never occur. There's ways you take care of guys. Nobody's paying any attention. Nobody's taking care of him. But there's bigger business on the horizon than whether Wardlow becomes a star, because apparently next week they're going to have a puppy battle royal to counter program the second week of the Great American Bash. Sort of like they on the Animal Planet when they counter program the Super Bowl with the Puppy Bowl. A puppy battle royal.
I haven't heard an explanation from anyone yet as to what this is, why this is. Whose idea this was? Is it a tie-in, a cross-promotion with something that wasn't indicated in the spot? I don't know what the hell this is.
Well, it'd be nice if it's like a 2-minute little feature package and they donate some money to Animal Rescue or something. But it just, in this show, anything you do that's goofy, just all it does is make the show look goofy because almost all the shit they do is goofy. So it's not like we were watching the NFL and then suddenly this cute little spot for a puppy bowl breaks out, and it's kind of like a change of pace. It's just like another part of the clown show. And speaking of clown show, Lance Archer and Jelly Nutella having a half-hearted fight in the crowd where they're trying to hold Jelly back and Lance Archer and Jake Roberts are laughing at him, as they should and would if it was really happening. But that's how somehow going to promote a match for next week, Lance Archer versus Jelly Nutella.
Jake was great there. You got to admit, Jake was great. They're just laughing at the ridiculousness of Jelly Nutella standing a chance against Lance Archer.
That's the problem. They're actually promoting that match unless it's 2 minutes and Lance Archer plays with him. They're expecting them to have a match, I guarantee you. And they're going to ask Lance Archer to just, I guess, fucking lose every shred of pride and dignity he's ever had and probably have a competitive match with this fucking idiot. And Pippi Longstocking is going to be competitive on TV with Lance Archer, which is another reason why they can give him Jake Roberts, they can give him Frank Gotch, they can do whatever the fuck. They've had Lance Archer wrestle fucking stunted growth, and every freak show outlaw indie goof that they've signed on their roster, and he's dead, and it's not going to get better. Brian Cage has already passed him, which we'll talk about in a second. Here's what I was upset at you about. The next match was for the women's championship, Penelope Ford against Hikaru Tschida, and you told me, oh, I saw it. It's good. You got to watch it. You ought to watch it. And I'm fucking hot at you, Brian.
So you watched it?
Yes, and I'm hot at you. First of all, where's Riho?
We have not seen Riho since before the pandemic. I
bet she and Olivier broke up. A difference in opinion over their next blow-up opponent. Thankfully, the good part was Ref Aubrey ejected Kip Sabian, thank fuck, at the start of this thing. Aubrey is the toughest person in the match, I wrote at the top of it. And here's if you're grading by, okay, every other AEW women's match, this was good. Because this was top-level indie-rific girl wrestling. Some gymnastics, way too many moves, a lot of screaming and hair flying around, people trying complicated shit that they're not able to pull off without looking choreographed. Top-level indie-rific girl wrestling. It was better than any AEW girls match ever, which is faint praise. Nicest guy in prison. But neither Charlotte nor Rhea Ripley, either one, have anything to worry about here in this. And there's so many girls matches. If there were less of them, this would have stood out as a novelty and better, because we wouldn't just be seeing. But once again, with NXT being a women's wrestling show with some male guest stars, and AEW having every bad independent girl wrestler and constantly trying to show them, fuck it. So then Kip Sabian comes out. And did you love this spot? And I dare anybody to go back and watch this one. I would have fined this motherfucker. I would have taken that kendo stick and beat him in the head with it. They do the spot where Sabian comes out, the referee's distracted, he swings the kendo stick at the babyface girl, and she ducks, and then she nails him. And it's supposed to be that he tosses the stick up in the air, and she grabs it and fucking blisters him, and out he goes. Well, and I've done that spot with the tennis racket, and I've seen a lot of managers do that spot. It's never looked like this before. He swings, she ducks, she gives him the flipper or whatever. He obviously just did looked like a little Kenny Olivier twinkle step, and threw the stick straight up in the air, and then did a little vamp so that she could catch it, and then he stood there for her to hit him. Phony as a football bat. Hot fucking garbage. And then Tschida hit about a dozen fucking finishes and strikes or whatever and finally pinned her. So thank you very much, Brian Last. That's time of my life I'll never get back.
So you liked it?
Oh, loved it. Couldn't do without it. Can't wait for some more of it. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that thing, give me that. I'd like to not see any more of that. I'd rather have my balls nailed to a step stool than to see any more of that. Anyway, imagine what happened next. The best match of either show, if you're considering both shows professional wrestling shows, immediately followed. Jake Hager and Cody. A wrestling match, much like last week with FTR, suddenly broke out in the middle of the fucking American version of Benny Hill. I love Hager's wife. I mean, I don't know if she can work. She'll be great because she looks hotter than the fucking 7th level of hell. And she did a slap good. I didn't care much for her fucking little milking segment she did a while back at ringside, but if she can work any at all, she dresses him up. Because remember, we've talked about, the way he dresses and his facial expression, he looks like a fucking stockbroker playing around a golf most of the time. So she dresses him up. Cody had Arn. Jake Hager's music is fucking horrible. He's a white guy from Oklahoma, amateur wrestling champion, and it sounds like gangster rap. What the fuck is that? It sounds nothing like anything he ought to play. Jericho was hilarious most of the time on commentary. I'm starting to like to listen to Chris better than watch him work. When they sold the nightmare fucking temporary tattoos, and he said, put the nightmare tattoo on your ass, Shivani. I enjoyed that. Boy,
it's too bad Cody's isn't temporary.
Boy, I tell you what, I bet he wishes he could pay a lot of money for a temporary tattoo.
I bet his wife does too.
But no surprise here. Suddenly, in the middle of all the hilarity and the bullshit and the foolishness and the bad booking, a fucking wrestling match breaks out. They were serious. It was nice work. Hager looked better here than I've ever seen him because he listened. All the shit made sense. It was put together well, and Cody stayed on him, at least I'm pretty sure verbally, so he was not allowed to wander around and get into his own fucking devices. This is the way I think Hager ought to look. He looked like a big badass bruiser, but Cody still fought from underneath. Hager didn't fuck up a lot of shit or try a lot of shit he shouldn't be doing. It had a big match feel with guys who look like stars and have been presented as stars in this environment. And people that are undisputedly Arn Anderson's at ringside. Cody is a member of the Rhodes family. Hager's been on WWE television. There's some fucking players here. And the shit looked good. The first segment pretty much built to Cody with he didn't even do a dive. He did the big leap and the jump with the double axe handle or double sledge or whatever off the top to the floor on Hager. And then Hager ended up laying Cody and Triple A and Double A out to go to the break. So that was pretty good. And we come back with heat on Cody, and Cody sells his ass off, but he timed his hope spots good. He had some fire on his comeback. They went into the back and forth. It was competitive there. Catalina got the slap in. Dustin came out and got a punch in. Cody does love to have the cameo appearances for the little pops in his finishes. Sometimes it gets overdone, but this all worked and timing was good.
There's always outside interference every
but
Cody match.
It is a hallmark, a trademark. But then I like this finish. And Hager, I hate that fucking neck hold, the neck clutch, or whatever the submission hold he gets. It's neither fish nor foul, whether it's neither a lay down nor a stand up hold, and it's too close in, and you can't. I don't like the hold, but when Hager got the fucking neck trapped and Cody rolled over and switched it, so he pinned him while Hager still had the hold, but Cody got the pin. I like that. Jake Hager looked the best that he's looked in the ring as a experienced professional on this program. Cody slipped over, but leaving plenty of room for debate because Hager's up immediately and Cody's down selling. And it was just the babyface outsmarted the heel. Nice little fucking finish there. I liked the match. I liked the finish. Up until then, of course, they always have to do an afterbirth. I thought Hager just fucking knocking poor old Mike Posey, the referee, out with one shot while the faces stood there and did fuck all but look at him. And the referees and agents had to come run in and, get him. I thought that was blah. But this had to be the best match of both nights or both shows, didn't it?
Either this or the Thatcher match.
But, well, see, as I said, the Thatcher match, as purely as a contest and as a match, it was better. Those guys are both better workers together at that style, and they meshed. But as far as a main event, remember I said, it's nice to have on the card as a main event, important match with top guys in the company. This was not only good and not embarrassing, but got every point across and got everything accomplished that needed to be done. And it's probably the only thing on either show all night that fit all those requirements.
By the way, the upcoming Puppy Bowl.
Yeah.
Hate to play spoiler. Pharaoh wins.
Oh no!
No.
Wouldn't you know who won the Puppy Bowl? My dog Pharaoh. My dog Pharaoh won the Puppy Bowl. I swear to God, they got to do that.
One of my favorite lines ever years ago at Fan Week, Masa Hori was there, my good friend Masa, and he was going, what was her name? Peggy was driving him around.
Yes, Peggy Lathan, wasn't it?
And she was going to take him to the Dixie Stampede. And you said, Dixie Stampede, Dusty's going to win it. But anyway, sorry.
Anyway, we moved on to a Darby Allin video where he's in a phone booth. I don't know where they found one where the phone still works, but he's in a phone booth. I guess it's his audience, I guess, is all the broke, poor people that are too lazy to get a fucking job and would rather skateboard all day and have to use phone booths because they live in their parents' basement. This is his clientele. He's not medically cleared and he's pissed about it. So I'll show you who's medically cleared. And he goes and does a bunch of flips off things, a bunch of skateboard stunts. One guy is riding a skateboard while he's set on fire. And apparently they actually do this kind of shit in their backyard. So this is why I'm conflicted on Darby Allin, because I like him as a talent and he's just such a complete fucking idiot, apparently, as a real life person. He does all this shit. So I can only assume that as a guy who's just gotten a contract with a big-time wrestling promotion where he's making the first big money he's ever made in his life, his response to not being medically cleared to wrestle is to go out and do a bunch of shit to try to injure himself further so he can continue to not wrestle and fuck up his big money chances. And that'll make him a hero to the fucking people who like people who think like that. Is that what you got out of this?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's the kind of guy who makes up a story for sex sent me to the ER.
And it wasn't even that good a story.
And gets to hang out in the hotel because of that story.
Anyway, continue moving quickly. My Little Dog Pockets comes out because they didn't learn when the last segment involving him and their top star was a ratings disaster, because they've jumped the shark with this silliness. So they have Pockets come out and sit there and go to sleep next to the announce desk so Jericho can fucking get mad at him. Santana and Ortiz take on Private Party. Private Party's manager in their corner is Matt Hardy. A month ago when I quit watching this shit, Matt Hardy was the newest high-level superstar that had come in to shake up the face of the company. Matt Hardy is now a manager. Do you remember when The Rock or Steve Austin managed the Body Donnas? Remember that, Brian?
No, but I remember when Michael Hayes managed the Hardy Boys.
And that only lasted about 6 weeks, too.
That's right.
And, yeah. So basically, Santana and Ortiz versus Private Party. Within seconds, they were running and diving and flipping and double teaming and gesticulating and farting about. And they just did shit. I zoned out. It's just flipping and moving back and forth. They did at one point the worst quote unquote hot tag I've ever seen. Did you see it where they made the hot tag and even the wrestlers didn't even seem like they were sure that it actually happened?
I don't recall.
It was
I zoned out too, by the way. I zoned out for the rest of the show pretty much after.
Anybody that watches this match back, watch at one point Private Party made a fucking hot tag to each, and the announcers and the wrestlers in the ring weren't even sure. They didn't look like that it fucking took place. I hate Private Party's basketball uniforms. It looked like a bunch of indie level fucking fuckwits at wrestling school. This whole everybody shaggy and fucking dressed badly in this match. The work was sloppy. Everybody threw potatoes and did fucking sloppy double teams that didn't work out. It went way too long. Then at one point, Santana and Ortiz tagged each other while both of them were in the ring. Pampero Firpo got in the ring, and then as his partner reached out to tag him, they tagged while they were both standing in the ring, and then did a double shoot off. They ignored the referee for whatever the referee's purpose was to be there. Nobody even noticed. And Private Party finally won a fucking match with that double team that I like, the Hurricane Rana into the fucking cutter, that they've never beaten anybody with before. And I said, it looks so good. They won this match with it. It was the worst it's fucking looked. It's a fucking mess. This was an insult to tag team wrestling. And FTR should have come out and taken some gasoline and poured it over everybody and set them on fire in ceremonial fucking cleansing of the tag team wrestling world that this match ever happened. And you zoned out, so I don't fucking care what you thought.
I can't add too much to this. I got burned out on the show after the Cody match. I was kind of done with the show after that.
Well, there's actually one good thing left. But then Jericho, to try to lighten things up a little bit, fire things up, threw water on Pockets. And the fucking heels ran out and held Jericho back, where Pockets just walked away with a look on his face like an autistic anteater. Just watch him just walk away. And Jericho, the top guy in the company, makes a fool of himself over a preliminary joke wrestler. So that's not doing anybody any good. And once again, if there was an owner of this company who might set his foot down and insist that his employees make him some of his money back, he would go out there and say, Chris, slap this fucking guy, pin him 1, 2, 3 with your foot on his chest, never come near him again because you're my top star and I need you. Anyway, then we have a promo with Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Olivier. And Adam Page is not real good in this particular promo, but Olivier comes off as, I've said Harpo Marx. I've said Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. In this promo, with his simpering, sissified delivery and his fucking confusing facial expressions where he just seems to either have the fresh butt plug just fell out or he's confused about where he's at. Kenny Olivier is the illegitimate son of Richard Simmons on steroids. Think about it. The curly hair, the annoying prancing around, the insipid voice, and the silliness overriding the whole presentation, but he's got a jacked up body. He is the illegitimate son of Richard Simmons. We should possibly start calling him Kenny Simmons Jr. He is as not intimidating when he speaks as any fucking babyface I've ever fucking seen. So that was that promo. I mean, what do you think? Do you see is there a little bit of resemblance there? I know he's taller than Richard Simmons.
Yeah, I'm not getting the Richard Simmons comparison.
I just see it when I hear him talk and I see him hop around and I see the curly hair. Anyway, you don't like it, I don't care. Because the last thing of any competence on this show then came up Taz and Brian Cage. Just put the belt on him now. Because Brian Cage looks great. Taz cut a fucking wrestling promo as a manager. As fucking look badass. They look good together. Mox has a case of the chicken shits. I love Taz's material. This is a great pairing. Taz already knows how to manage better than Jake does, has a better delivery, and looks cooler, actually, because there is still the fucking Jake is showing still visually a lot of fucking impairment and from the years of piss drinking. The only critique I have, change the fucking shot. Don't put Taz in the foreground and Cage in the background. Reverse it. Put Cage in the forefront to look huge and have Taz look over his shoulder with that fucking expressive face. The way they were shooting it, Taz was blocking out the screen and Cage looked small.
Well, he may have to look under the shoulder. Taz isn't exactly the biggest guy. He's smaller than Cage.
Well, no, but you know what? If the fucking floor camera guy is either backed up in the turnbuckle or standing on the bottom rope and is shooting down looking at fucking Cage flexing and fucking Taz talking over his shoulder, you can do that shot. But anyway, regardless, they got something here if they don't fuck this up. Famous final words.
How many managers do they have?
Well, Jake Roberts.
1.
Taz.
2.
Arn Anderson.
3. Tully Blanchard. 4.
Well, but has Tully managed in 4 months?
He manages Sean Spears, who appears on their other show, the YouTube show, I think.
Okay, well, as long as you ain't on television, it doesn't matter. And then they've got a bunch of peripheral fucking valets and women that wander around.
Kip Sabian managed Penelope Ford on this show. That's 5.
Well, yeah, but he's not a manager. It's just they sign their fucking school friends and they let the girlfriends and boyfriends hang out with each other. Maybe they can steal a smooch under the bleachers.
Brandy Rhodes, 6.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
She's a manager. You can't say she's not.
Yes, I can.
Well, I mean, she's not good at it, but
all
they're
right.
using her in the managerial role.
You're mincing words, mincemeat.
There's a lot of managers in AEW.
I would say the meaningful ones are Jake Roberts and Taz.
Taz has been great.
And Arn Anderson as a coach, because he's a babyface, so he shouldn't really be a manager. He's a coach.
Tully did that great interview a few weeks ago. We have not seen him talk since.
Well, of course not.
Taz has been fantastic since he's been in there.
I have a feeling Taz is not just going to show up and sit around in catering and do dark or whatever it is. If they ain't using Taz got better places to be and things to do. So I have a feeling we'll see a lot of Taz. Anyway, and then of course we've got to finish this thing up. I wish we'd finished it up a lot sooner. I am not making this up to you folks, and maybe this is why that I've had so much feedback from the cult. Maybe this is why that they've lost 200,000 people off this television program unless I review it, because I ain't making this up. I couldn't make this up. They have an alleged babyface tag team called Best Friends. Trent, no last name anymore, and Hatchet Head McGee, otherwise known as Chuck Taylor. They were dropped off in the arena by Trent's legitimate real mother in a minivan. And she let him out and then demanded that Trent give her a kiss on the cheek before he walked on down to the ring. This was a thing they thought would be good for their wrestlers. They can't even try, can they? Can't try to be serious. Can't try. I mean, there's no, it's not like Best Friends are ever going to be anything remotely approaching a good tag team. Trent has potential. He looks like an athlete and he can work. He's buried constantly next to this hatchet-headed goof he's partners with and all the fucking idiots and outlaw goofs they run around with. But he's also buried by the booking. He's always the one they beat. Never Taylor, who looks like 6 foot of shit warmed over. He's always the one they embarrass. Now his mother has to kiss him on the cheek before he goes to the ring, so he's dead. He's deader than 4 o'clock. Deader, flatter than a plate full of piss. So they might as well give up now, but they won't. So Best Friends are going to wrestle Adam Page and Kenny Olivier, the tag team champions that used to not like each other, but now they've just, without ever splitting up, they've stopped hitting each other accidentally 17 times in every match. Have you noticed? And they haven't split up, but Kenny Olivier still won't drink alcohol because of him being a pussy at all. I noticed that Olivier's entrance is the embodiment of a popcorn fart. You've got your pyro, you got your loud music, you got your lights, you got your noise. But underneath all of that, for substance, you have a flat-footed, mopey-faced Harpo Marx-looking schlub coming out to the ring like it's the last place he wants to be, gesticulating with his fingers. When the match started, Olivier opened with Hatchet Head. I double dog dare anybody. You do not have a single hair on any of your nuts out there in podcast land. If you do not go back to the tape of this match and start playing Olivier and Taylor's opening minute of choreographed prancing with the saber dance in the background. You know the saber dance, Brian. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm not sure.
Except the plate spinner on the Ed Sullivan Show was now these two fucking goofs diving and flipping and hopping and prancing about, looking like they're playing at doing wrestling moves, but having no actual contact or oomph or anything with the moves, just fucking hopping around like Yeah, I mean, where's the trained dog? I guess that's next week in the Puppy Bowl. The trained dog should have been jumping through some hoops behind their attempts at wrestling. Trent and Adam Page, then they got in and they looked like actual professional wrestlers interacting with each other. But once again, here's two babyface teams that neither one should work heel. So both of them at various times work heel in this match. FTR came out with lawn chairs and coolers to scout the opposition. I guess that's what they're doing now since last week. Two job guys stole their fucking truck. Fucking moron idiot. Everybody involved in putting this television program together should be fucking sued in court. I wish there was a Stephen P. New spot in this program for crimes against wrestling, or at least against booking. So FTR, the best tag team in the world, is out there drinking beer and scouting these guys because the job guys stole their truck last week. And here was the summation of the last fucking 5 or 10 minutes of this thing. More guys doing the same kind of shit to each other, diving around and taking car wreck bumps. Chuck Taylor still looks physically deplorable. No logic to this, no flow. Constantly all four guys in the ring. Trent at one point stood staggering, watching Olivier come off the top and drop kick him. Did you see that one? Olivier's going to drop kick Trent in the back of the head off the top rope. So Trent stands there, staggering, and looks over his shoulder, waiting for Olivier to get up and come off so that he can get drop kicked. Then Page made a save one time for Olivier. Olivier was being covered by fucking Taylor, so Page makes a save by accidentally hammer fisting his own partner in the face when he missed Chuck Taylor. Oh, and here come Kitty Olivier, and he busted out the Snapdragons. Twinkle Toes McFingerbang was a dangerous man here. The least impressive comeback move in wrestling history, the Snapdragon. On both of the friends, then flat-footed cold tag Page back in. All of them stayed in with the referee not counting, while the announcers were talking about they had a 10 count, but they took about a 30 or 40 count, but there was nobody counting anyway. I then wrote, this circle jerk would not end. Then Taylor dropped Olivier on his fucking head. The best friends hugged, but lost their advantage. So they're fucking idiots, too. They're about to win the World Tag Team title, but they stop to hug and lose their advantage. That's baby faces I'm sure all of America would love to support. Then Trent chopped Page as hard as he could in the Adam's apple for some reason. I have no idea why. Even the announcers called it. Olivier and Taylor vanished then from the face of the earth while Page and Trent did shit to each other, and then Adam Page hit the buckshot lariat 1, 2, 3. They always beat Trent. Never do they beat Chuck Taylor, someone who looks like that's all that should happen to him is to be beaten and then pulled up so he could be beaten down again. I do not recall a worse tag team match ever happening in history. Then FTR come to the ring.
Come on, the worst match in history?
I just wrote, I don't recall a worse tag team match. That's because I'm suffering from amnesia, from the fucking PTSD of watching this stupidity. And then FTR came in the ring and offered Page and Olivier beers. And they accepted them, but Olivier's a dick and poured his out. And FTR were going to fight him about that, but the Bucks run out dressed like fucking, once again, middle school fucking children on recess, with Road Warrior Buck having his hair up in a cute little man bun. And they decided to make peace and talk everybody down out of it. And that was it. Fuck, I wish you could hear me setting shit on fire.
Don't rip it up.
I've got to get a goddamn, I'm going to get a stick of dynamite. I got 2 acres in the back. How far will shit fly if you blow it up with 1 stick of dynamite?
Are you going to use dynamite because the name of the show is Dynamite?
No, just because I want to blow this actually up. And I'm wondering what can I use? Like I said, I've got a lot of space back there. I can get way away from everybody's house and everything. Should it be dynamite? Should it be just fucking gasoline and goddamn a Molotov cocktail?
That seems like a lot of work for a piece of paper. I think there's so much good you could be doing for the world of wrestling with these notes. Why destroy them?
I wish I had just had time to stick my microphone down in between my ass cheeks where I just farted. And that would be my commentary on that television program. So basically what we had here, and it wasn't even a popcorn fart. It was full of flavor, and it was a full flavored fucking, and humidity. Had humidity to it. It wasn't just a poof. What we had here, besides the failure to communicate, was Timothy Thatcher and Oney Lorcan had a good match on the card. Roderick Strong had a good match with himself.
Wasn't that good?
Well, a good match is a good match to have with yourself. Now, if he'd had an opponent, it'd been easier and it'd been better. MJF and Wardlow and Dino Douche and Jungle Boy had a good match, okay, until it fell in the hole at the finish. Jake Hager and Cody actually, made people proud to like pro wrestling for just a few brief moments. And Taz and Brian Cage cut a good promo. And together, the Great American Bash and Fyter Fest, 4 hours of shit, that's all we got that was palatable to almost anyone. I'm disgusted, and I can't wait to see what to come up with next week to try to fucking make up for this but I call this one a draw. I don't see a winner.
Well, what are you looking forward to next week? Obviously, Keith Lee versus
I'm looking forward
Adam
to
Cole.
It being over. That's what I'm looking forward to, and then I'll reevaluate whether I ever watch any more of this shit again. I'd like to see Keith Lee and Adam Cole, especially if Keith Lee isn't going to talk, and Adam Cole is, and I want to see them have as good a match as they can have. I don't know of anything else that I'm particularly looking forward to, and hopefully FTR will goddamn wrestle and MJF will wrestle, so there's something I can like.
They've announced FTR and the Young Bucks versus the Butcher, the Blade, Pentagon Jr., right, and Rey Fenix.
Okay, well, that's going to fucking suck donkey cock. There wasn't even a fucking Tijuana joke in there. It's going to be a horrible clash of styles, and nobody's going to want to fucking listen to FTR, I can guarantee you. So they're going to be just, oh, Jesus Christ. We'll see what happens.
Do you want to hear the ratings?
Do we have the ratings yet?
The ratings are in. Okay,
I call it a draw. Who won the ratings? I call it a draw in show quality. Who won the ratings war?
AEW, 748,000 viewers. NXT, 792,000 viewers.
Boo!
By the way, both shows apparently lost to something called Guy's Grocery Games on the Food Network.
Let's get Guy Fieri.
That did 991,000 viewers.
Hey, Guy Fieri ain't one to fuck around with, boy.
So he's the guy. It's not just like grocery games for men. Okay.
No, it's the guy.
Okay.
When NXT started and AEW started, I predicted that the first half hour of NXT was giving the fucking ball game away to AEW with that horrible girls four-way. What happened in the first 30 minutes? Who won there? Did they run people to AEW? You don't have breakdown. Well, we're going to figure that out. Because either they watched that fucking four-way on NXT and said, fuck, after 30 minutes, we can't take any more of it. Or they gave AEW an early lead and then AEW botched it by having a match there, a show that got shittier and shittier as it went along. We'll find out what the case was. But 2 weeks in a row, not looking too good for the Mud Show gang. Maybe they might have to actually be serious. Do you think it'll ever get desperate enough where they're actually really serious and try to actually, be wrestlers? Do you think it'll ever get that bad?
Do I think AEW will put out a serious wrestling product without silliness? No, I do not. I don't think they have the creative leadership.
Desperate people do desperate things. If the ratings get bad enough, they might have to try the only thing they haven't tried so far, which is to actually be good. Just a thought. Anyway.
I don't think they're going to change course. I think we see what AEW is. This is what AEW's owner wants it to be. This is what AEW will be.
Well, we will find out next week. Part 1 of the 2-week Wednesday Night Wars goes to NXT, although in my opinion, this was a heel program. There was no babyface. It was like kissing my sister. And I tear those notes up.
Oh, come on.
And again.
Stop it.
And we're going to see what they can do next week. And so talk about a change in course. Right now, I'm going to go have a calming cheeseburger. And I'm going to fucking rub some Omax CryoFreeze on my eyes to reduce the pain and inflammation.
That may burn your eyes. Don't do that.
Well, good. Then I won't have to watch next week at all. And ladies and gentlemen, until then, for Brian and all the cult members who just love to hear me go out of my mind over this shit, thank you. Fuck you. See you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.